Yeah. What is good, Regis recipients? How are y'all doing today? I want to thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Regis Reflections. Y'all already know each and every episode we have a different athlete on this podcast. And since it's the end of the semester, we want to spice it up and throw in a little end of the year treat. So we invited a Notre Dame basketball alumni, Torrin Francis. Say what's up to the people, Torrin.
You're
Ah.
how's everyone doing? Happy Friday.
Yes, sir. How are you doing today? So, how's your mental health on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say my mental health is pretty good. Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably say about an 8. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah, I would probably say about an 8.
that's good. That's good. Good little Friday. You have any special plans for this weekend?
I'm just hanging out with the kids. Yeah,
Mm.
my kids every other weekend. You actually got to meet two of my sons, and so that was the one weekend I had them. I actually have two sons and two daughters. So my oldest daughter, she's a freshman at Yale now. My two boys are 14 and 11, and my youngest daughter is 9. So my one of my sons, he actually has a basketball tournament in Atlantic City. So it's just going to be me, my 14-year-old, and then my youngest daughter, Anaya, just hanging out for the weekend.
Hey, that's good. Good vibes. Good vibes. We love it. Relaxing weekend. We love relaxing weekend.
Yeah.
S- So, Regis recipients, Torrin here is a former Notre Dame basketball alumni for the Fighting Irish. Just go ahead, give it up. Give it up for that. Give it up. Give it up. So, Torrin, I just want to ask you firstly, kind of talk about your background. Where are you from and whom or what got you into playing basketball? And around what age?
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Boston, first
Mm.
generation born American. My mother's from Jamaica. My father is from Nigeria. And growing up, I was just always tall. I was always taller than my peers. I'm one of six, so I have three sisters and two brothers, and so I was always taller than everyone. And I'm grateful that my mother got me into sports at a young age. At 6, I started playing soccer and baseball. Those were the first two sports I played, and so I played those sports for 5, 6 years, and then I also started running track. I started playing football and basketball. I
Mm.
always just recreationally, and so I was always taller than my peers, and so everyone used to always ask, found out my age, they would ask if I played basketball, and I'd always say no. No, I play
Right.
soccer, play baseball, and I was just an active kid anyway, so I was just always athletic.
Mm.
And then when I was about 13, I was like, I think I actually want to start playing basketball, and so
13?
yeah, I started late. I started very late, and so when I first started playing, a bunch of my peers they would tease me and say I was just tall for nothing. I was uncoordinated, and then my mother, what she wanted to do, or what she did actually, she started looking for coaches to work out with me one on one to develop my game, and I think she kind of saw the potential in myself as well, especially with my size, and
Mm.
so she went to a bunch of local community centers, and she finally connected with he became my mentor, Claude Pritchard. And from the time I started playing, I would basically go work out with him every day after school. So every day after school, we would work out for about an hour and a half, and
Mm.
then I would play pickup because after they had open gyms, so older guys would come, we would play pickup. So it gave me an opportunity to kind of
Oh.
that I worked on in the workout. And so did this for about a year. And, it's cliche when people say that hard work pays off, but I feel like I'm actually a direct result of that. And, it kind of reminds me, there's a book that's it's a pretty good read, and it's called Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And
Mm.
it talks about how, a lot of people, they put in work and they don't automatically see results after 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then they kind of revert to their normal habits. And it just
Right.
talks about just the consistency and the repetition and the good habits, and you're going to actually see the results over time. You know what I mean? And so
Mm.
I worked out for 1 year straight, and then I went from practically being unknown to now being, when I was 15, I was like top 100 in the country. Then when I was 16, I was like top 50. Then my junior senior
Mhm.
year, I was top 20. So I ended up being a McDonald's All-American. I was actually the McDonald's All-American Player of the Year. So I played in the same game as Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, Chris Bosh, JJ Redick.
Whoa. Wait, so wait, when you were training for basketball, let's backtrack a little bit. Did you kind of try and model your game after any type of pro at all? Was that kind of your mindset, or were you just working on your all around game?
Yeah, so he basically got back to the basics with me. So we always worked on ball handling, shooting, post up, everything.
Mm.
I really in high school I averaged 30 points a game. So in high school I kind of did everything. I would ball up, I could shoot, I would shoot threes. I just had a pretty all around game. And so I think I credit Claude really in just exposing me to the game and really teaching me the fundamentals, because nowadays a lot of players, they're not worried about the fundamentals, and especially now in the social media age, it's all about kind of the flash and
Yeah.
the games and the flashy
Dunks and yeah.
shooting threes, but they're not really focusing on the work that it actually takes to perform at a high level. So I think that a lot of a lot of coaches, trainers, those are what they need to focus on, especially with some of these younger players coming up.
So you were McDonald's All American coming out of Boston. That's just incredible. And you were on the McDonald's All American team with guys like Carmelo and Amari Stoudemire. How was that from you? From like, could you share from your point of view? How was just that overall experience being with the McDonald's All American and then being with like really just Hall of Famers, Amari Stoudemire and Melo?
Yeah, it was a great experience, but for me, they were on the same level. At that
Mm,
time, I wasn't looking at them like, I was looking at them like, they're going to the league, I'm going to the league too, because that's where I belong. And so
mm,
when I look back on it, so Carmelo Anthony, he actually ended up going to Syracuse, so that was when that's when Notre Dame and Syracuse were in the Big East. So this was before your time. Big East, I thought used to be the best conference, which is why I actually went to Notre Dame. One of the reasons
mm.
I went to Notre Dame to play in the Big East, but he went to Syracuse. They actually won the
That's
championship my freshman.
I remember that.
But he got Rookie of the Year. He got Big East Rookie of the Year. I was one of the runner ups for Rookie of the Year in the Big East, and so
Mm,
it was. I grew up. We were all the same age, so we grew up on the circuit playing against each other for years. And so I felt like I was kind of in an elite club with them as well back then.
that's true. That's true. That's true. You were. So when you say you mentioned that Notre Dame being part of the Big East was one of the reasons that pulled you, what were some of the other reasons why you ended up coming to play basketball at the University of Notre Dame?
Well, when I was looking at schools, I told you I think I was ranked 12th in the country to be
Mhm.
exact. So I could have pretty much went anywhere. And I narrowed it down to about 12 schools that I visited, including Duke, UNC, BC, Georgia Tech, Georgetown. Those are some
Mm.
on Florida. Those are some of my final schools. And I just think I was looking for a school that had a balance of academics and athletics. That's something that my mother also instilled in me, is working in the classroom as
Mm.
well as on the court. If there was a time, generally I got good grades, but if there was a time where my grades slipped, she would punish me by taking basketball away and taking away the things that I wanted to do. So that basically ensured that I was going to be focused, because
I'm on this.
and then to do that, I had to get good grades. So I was used to really the whole student athlete aspect of it. And so when I was looking at schools, I was looking at schools that were competitive academically and competitive athletically. And then I also wanted to play in the Big East. One, because I thought it was the best conference at that time. I thought it was, the Big East and the ACC were arguably the best two conferences. And then
Mhm.
I was from Boston, so my mother, any school I went to in the Big East, my mother would be able to get to the games when we played BC or Providence College or
Right.
UConn, any of the teams in New York. It was only a short travel. So throughout my career, my family was able to come to a huge amount of my games, and so just being able to have that support was great too. And then just from the basketball point of view, when I went and visited, first of all, the coaches, when they recruited me, I really felt like I was a priority for them, not just
Mm.
another player that was going to be expendable there. And then once I actually visited the school, um, it was just a bond that I had with the players. You can tell we were all good guys, all cut from the same cloth, and so it ended up being a no brainer. And then also, I knew I was going to have an opportunity to start as a freshman. I didn't want to
Mm.
and have to play behind anyone, and so I did end up starting as a freshman as well. And so those are, all the things that went into me deciding to choose Notre Dame.
Mm. So you ended up choosing Notre Dame, and you had a stellar, marvelous freshman year. Can you just talk about your freshman year, just playing basketball here in Notre Dame, and just also the lifestyle along with the academics for you while being here at Notre Dame?
Yeah, so the transition to Notre Dame for me was an easy one just because I actually went to boarding school when I was in high
Mm.
school. I went to
Oh.
a prep school called Tabor Academy, which is right outside of Boston on Cape Cod.
Mm.
And so I was already used to living on campus. I was used to dorms. I was used to just being responsible when knowing when to go to class. And so the transition for me was pretty simple, and I think that it was just kind of like a new situation. So me being like the big man on a small campus now to being the big man on a big campus. And so, I think that we had a great team, and we were very slept on, and I think that's what motivated me and my teammates. And it was just an amazing season basketball wise. There was a 1 week stretch where we beat 3 top 10 teams in 1 week. So we had beat Marquette, and that's when they had D Wade. We beat
Mm.
University of Texas. So University of Texas and University of Maryland, they were ranked in the top 10, and Marquette as well. Marquette was, I think, was number 9, and we beat all 3 of those teams in the same week. And so, we went from
Mm.
not anyone's radar to now being ranked after that those wins and a few other key wins. We were ranked 5th in the country, and so it was just amazing. Just having that recognition and going through that stretch, especially as a freshman. This is all new to me, and this is kind of like when you think about playing big time college basketball. This is what you think of: being nationally ranked, going to the tournament, being able to start and be a major factor of the team as a freshman as well. And so it was all great. And then to finish off the season, we went to the tournament, ended up losing to Arizona in the Sweet 16.
Mm.
Um, actually had 25 and 10 that game.
Mm.
I averaged 18 and 12 in the tournament as a freshman. And so, that was a decision that I had to make after my freshman year was, if I was going to make that jump to the next level or continue my career at Notre Dame. And so it was great to have support from all of the staff, the faculty. They realized that um, they were flexible with our schedule and
Mm.
allowed us to get our work done and accommodate us. We always had any extra help if we needed it, any tutors, any study hall, because Notre Dame, the athletics are great, but they're still holding us to a high standard
That's
in the
true.
classroom as well. And these are just the type of athletes that Notre Dame recruits, guys that are going to get it done on both sides. And so I think overall my freshman experience was amazing.
That's good. That's good. So you were talking about at the end of the freshman year after the tournament, you had the option of going to the league or staying another year and continuing your career, and you ended up staying another another year, continue playing. So what was kind of that decision making process, and then did it turn out? Was it worth it at the end of the day in your eyes?
So I had been advised that I would have gotten drafted 15 to 25, which is still first round. But in my mind, at that age, I'm thinking, well, I want to be a lottery pick, which I think at that time was the top 12 or 13 picks.
Mhm.
And so, it's when I look back on it, hindsight is 2020. And I tell guys now all the time, especially now, it's like, the league, NBA is getting younger, and sometimes that window that you have to actually play on the next level can close like this in an instant. And so, instead of me now looking back on it, instead of me, and then at that time as well, it was just my mother. I didn't grow up with my father. I grew up with my mother, and my mother was big on education. And so I told my mother, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do one more year and then leave after 2 years, and then um, go back and get my education sometime down the line.
Mhm.
And what ended up happening is I went back for my sophomore year, ended up um, getting injured midway through the season. I had a herniated disc, which required surgery. And so I was sidelined from February until the rest of the season. The team wasn't doing as well. We're coming off a top 10 ranking year, going to the Sweet 16. Team wasn't doing as well. We lost a couple seniors, and it was just a completely different experience my sophomore year as opposed to my freshman year. And so I don't have any regrets. I feel I believe everything happens for a reason in life, and I still went on. I ended up graduating. I went on to have an amazing career. I played 15 years overseas. I played 9 years in Europe and 6 years in South America.
Mhm.
Um, I have a beautiful
Wow.
family, 4 children. They actually got the opportunity to live with me and travel with me overseas as well. And a lot of players that came out with me, even if they went to the NBA, I had much longer careers than them. So
Mm.
to travel the world, experience different cultures, meet different people. I speak Spanish fluently now. My two older kids speak Spanish fluently as well. And so, there are a ton of experiences that I might not have even witnessed if I had gone to the NBA my freshman year, and then obviously if I had, then that would have been a completely different experience as well.
Mm.
And I just take everything with a grain of salt, and I realize that I'm still blessed. I still got to play the game that I love at a
Mm.
very high level for 15 years, and get paid to do it. So that's what I look at, and I would just say when I speak to some of the younger players, I just let them know, when you're hot, you have to make that jump. Just because if you have the chance to actually live your dreams out and play in the NBA, you can still study while you're doing that. You can still go back after and get your degree. Like, we see Shaq has his PhD. He
That's
went
true.
he, he has his he has 3 degrees, and there are so many other athletes that have gone back to get that diploma and get that degree, and now they've actually made a great career for themselves, and they've been able to do that and and be wealthy and have businesses, and then go back and get their degree, which I think is great.
That's smart. That's smart. So you talked about sophomore year that you had a injury in a sense. Kind of talk about in a sense how you were dealing with that mentally, how that affected you mentally, and how you able to get over that hump, the mental struggles of being injured during a crucial time during the season.
It was tough. It was tough. It was tough. It was tough mentally, especially because before I got hurt, my team wasn't doing well. We were losing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got hurt, my coach at the time, Coach Bray, Mike Bray, who actually was there until last year, so he was there for 23 years,
Mm-hmm.
kind of switched up the way, now that I wasn't in, he kind of switched up his rotations, and then they started winning. And so that kind of hit me mentally double fold. It's like, okay, I can't play, but now the team is winning without me. So it's like, do they actually need me? Like, what type of value am I adding to the team? And those are
Mm-hmm.
all, as athletes, that we struggle with sometimes, especially when we have to face a ton of adversity. And and so I think for me, it was really about just staying focused. But I think I had a ton of support from my teammates and from my family as well. And I think that, with my teammates, they still made me feel like I was part of the team. We're brothers for life. And so I never felt any differently, even while I was playing. And so I think I just had a great support system to help me through that tough time.
Mm.
And that's really the only major injury I had my entire career. Other than that, I broke my finger 1 year overseas, and I think I was out for like 3 months. But other than that, I was blessed to have a pretty healthy career.
That's true. That's true. God is good. So you finished your time at Notre Dame and you ended up going to go play overseas. Now, a lot of people, in a sense, don't understand like when you play overseas, it's really kind of grown men that are out there. It's very different from American. So how was it for you going from Boston now Notre Dame now you're going overseas now and going from team to team and playing in that atmosphere? How was that for you, especially mentally?
I think I was just prepared for it. I think for one, I graduated, so I had been in college for 4 years. I had already lived away from home. I think that culturally, I grew up with different cultures as far as my family goes. A lot of my friends are from the islands as well, and so I think that I was mature enough to go overseas. I played with a lot
Mm.
of guys who they were homesick. They had never been to other countries. They were really just used to their atmospheres, and so once they got overseas, they were kind of like out of place. For
All right.
me, I think it was just a new challenge to take on. Now college is over. I'm not playing in the NBA, so how can I be the best professional player in this particular country that I can be? And so it was putting in the work in the off season, and I think it was really just getting used to the style of game. In America, it's a lot of one on one. It's a more individual game. A lot of
Mhm.
run overseas, it's really a team game. And
Really?
so
Oh.
so that's something I had to get used to when I got to Italy. Italy was the first country that I played in, and that was one of the top leagues overseas. And so when I got to Italy, it was kind of like a battle of me trying to prove myself to my teammates who were older. These are vets that I'm like, okay, I'm the new guy, I'm the youngest guy on the team. I have to kind of prove myself. Me trying to also prove myself to the coaches and say, all right, there are some older guys on the team, but I'm definitely a better player than them. And it was kind of me playing with a chip on my shoulder, which I really didn't have to do that. And so it took maybe about a couple months. In the beginning of the season, I wasn't starting. And
Mm.
as I got more comfortable learning about the game and learning it's more about the team game and just learning about the culture in Italy at that time, I got more comfortable. Definitely became more dominant, and by midway through the season, I was starting on the team. I was producing, and I think I had a decent rookie year.
Mm. So how would you rate your time overseas playing basketball?
Oh, definitely. I would say a 9 out of 10.
Nine out of
I
10.
9 out of 10. And the only reason I don't say a 10 out of 10 is because there's a lot of bullshit that you deal with overseas. People think when I'm overseas, I'm on vacation. They think I'm just,
Yeah.
traveling, which I do. I got to travel, I got to sightsee, I got to do all that. But
Mm.
they have to keep in mind that I'm working, I'm doing two a days, I'm playing 2, 3 games a week. I'm traveling all the time. That's a job. That's a full-time job. And another thing is that overseas, I came from Notre Dame, which is one of the top college programs in the
Hmm.
country.
Exactly.
So so the facilities were all on point. Everything was professional. Overseas,
Hmm.
it's very unprofessional unless you're with one of the top teams in any particular country. So
Really?
I had to deal with locker rooms that were shitty or getting paid late. overseas, they basically say if you're getting paid a month late, that's pretty standard. And so I had to get used to that being standard. Out of my 15 years, there were one, two, I think 1 year only that I didn't get my money. So luckily, I was blessed to get all my money for the rest of the years of my career. Yeah, it was actually 2 years.
Wow.
It was 2 years, but one team I had sued, and then like 7, 8 years later, they ended up paying me just out of the blue. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So that 1 year, I didn't get paid, and so just some of that bullshit that I had to deal with. I'm going to I'm going to say a 9, but I mean the the positives and the benefits definitely outweigh the negatives. Just being able to. I've lived in, for instance, I've been to over 20 different countries, but some of the cities that I've lived in Berlin, which is
Mhm.
amazing. My favorite city. So Berlin in Germany is amazing. I actually thought about living there permanently, but and then I left. I ended up leaving Europe and going to South America. But
Whoa.
Istanbul is amazing. Tel Aviv is amazing. Izmir also in Turkey is great. Where else? Mm,
So
I lived,
good.
I lived in Milan. Milan was okay. Milan, I like so in Italy, Rome
Mm.
is probably my favorite city in Italy. Yeah, Rome and Florence.
Rome.
Yeah, yeah. So I got to, and then also Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires in Argentina is
Mm.
so
And you
yeah.
lived everywhere.
Yeah, those are just some of the cities I lived in and I've been to. I've been all around France, all around Italy. I've been to Asia. So I've been blessed to get to see the world and get paid to do so.
That's true. That's true. Wow. That's amazing. Gotta go see the world. Got it. The world is beautiful.
Yes, yes. I always tell people, so traveling, there's no time limit on being able to travel. So there's so much out there. And I live in New York now, and way too often in New York, I've met people who've never even left Brooklyn or people who've never left New York, and I'm just like, yo, there's a whole world outside there to experience, and so I always encourage people to just go out and see the world and just open their eyes and open their minds to the beauty that there is out there.
That's true. That's true. Wow. Well, one final question, Torin, before we wrap things up. I'm so caught up in the traveling right now. I'm ready to go. I want to go travel. Um, what advice would you give to our listeners and viewers out there on their mental health journey?
I think it's all about the support system. I think the times when I maybe felt at my lowest or when I've had to face adversity. It's really been my support system, my family, my friends, my faith, always keeping the faith. Maybe talking to a therapist. I think it's always great to have someone to speak to have that support system because we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to hide it. Especially now, mental health and mental illness is much more prevalent, but it's much more apparent as well. And so there's a ton of resources out there for all of us to be able to navigate and be able to live a healthy lifestyle mentally. And so really just a support system um, and and tapping into that support system and just keeping the faith.
Mhm. Keeping faith. That's true. That's true. Well, thank you, Torin. Regis recipients, you heard it from Torin himself, the truth. Thank you, Torin, for taking the time out of your day and joining
Thank
me on this podcast.
thank you for having me. This was great. This was great,
Miss,
and I think you're doing a great thing over there. And I think especially for athletes, I think for athletes, we sometimes we might try to kind of hide our mental health just because we might fear what our other peers or athletes feel about us. So I think that's great that you're giving us a platform to express ourselves and really just bring mental health to light, and show people that even athletes, everyone
also
suffers
something.
from different types of mental health issues, and so even some of the people we look up to, some of our idols, and so give, giving us that platform to tell our stories, I think is great. So keep doing what you're doing as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You too. You too. Thank you very much. And thank you again for sharing your story and your many adventures. And Regis recipients, remember, it's okay to not be okay. You matter. It's your boy JD. I'm out.